That's exciting.
There we are, Fred. The world is watching.
Hi.
Hello,
Hi,
everyone.
Mom, Dad, kids.
We're so awesome. All right, I am. Are you ready?
I'm ready. I was born ready.
You were born ready.
Born
That's
ready,
right.
that's
You
right.
told me yesterday. I was
Yeah.
like, oh, thank goodness. All right, Sam, we are ready when you are.
All right, here we go.
Hi, this is Mich Hancock, and you are listening to Mishmash, a place where I get to talk to the weird, wacky, wonderful people of this world, people I adore and want to know more about. Today, my guest is Fred Miller. Fred is the owner of No Sweat Public Speaking. He is a keynote speaker, speaker coach, author, and TEDx Gateway Arch speaker facilitator. Hello, Fred.
Hello, Mich. I was 2 or 3. So weird and wacky. So 2 of those. What was the
Weird, wacky, and wonderful.
2 out of 3. We won't see what you think. I
we
missed one of them.
We'll
That's
decide at the end.
Okay.
We give you a score.
Oh,
Okay,
jeez.
on the weirdness scale, you're here.
Okay. Well, maybe we'll weight that a little bit more. That'd be good.
So how long have you been speaking and teaching speaking? How long has
I
this
think
been
I
going
started
on?
speaking at 1 year old, but no, seriously, I was in Toastmasters forever, and I love speaking. I used to go see speakers like Zig Ziglar and
Oh,
Brian
yeah.
Tracy and Les Brown, and just amazing. So Toastmasters is an international organization.
Right.
They have 2 tracks, speaking and leadership. And I was in a club for years, and I was with a bunch of guys. We actually started something called Gateway Motivational Team, and nothing really came of it, but I've been in several businesses. In 2011, I published my first book, No Sweat Public Speaking.
Which is a great title, because what do most people do?
They sweat.
They sweat when they're going to have to get on stage. And really, a lot of it is you have to be really confident in what you're going up there to talk about, right? You
have to
prepare
have
people for that.
confidence in your competence.
Confidence in your confidence.
But it's
I
tough,
like it.
because most people, that's their greatest fear. It holds so many people back from reaching their goals. Well, we can see with TED Talks.
Right.
You got to get somebody who, they may be a leader in their industry, they may be the expert in the subject, but they can't deliver that presentation in a manner that educates, entertains, and explains. The audience will never get it.
Which is why we have people like you, which is why we have speaker facilitators, right? Because it's not easy to create that 18 minutes or less.
Oh, no.
It is, I mean, and I've said it before, it's like 40, 60 hours of preparation. It's a ton of time that those speakers, I mean, you're committed. When you say, yes, I'm going to do a TED Talk, it's like you've got a lot of extra work to do right now.
And people don't realize that.
No.
Kind of a ballpark figure, an hour of preparation for every minute of presentation. Actually, TED Talks are a little bit more. But I compare it to athletes. If you take the amount of time that a professional athlete actually spends playing their game,
Right.
it's infinitesimal to the amount of time they spend working out and practicing. Why would you think you could get up and wing it?
Right. Right. And we've even had, this has happened before, where we have a speaker orientation, and then there's always one speaker that is saying to me, I really almost have mine done. And I never tell them, no, you don't. I figure
No.
the speaker facilitator is going to tell you. But they don't, because a lot of them do not understand all those little parts we'd like to see them get to within their presentation, but also keeping it very real to them, very authentic to them.
Yes. And there's 2 parts to a presentation. There's content and delivery. Content is the message.
Right.
Delivery is presenting that message. Delivery trumps content. And on the delivery side, there's verbal and nonverbal communication. Nonverbal trumps verbal. People believe what they see.
Right.
And you've got to be aware of those things. It all goes into it.
So if you're like fidgety,
Yeah,
it's going to
fidgety
drive everybody
or-
crazy.
Yeah.
Right.
That's good. Well, a couple of examples. A lot of people are familiar with the first televised debate. Richard Nixon,
Right.
John
With
Kennedy.
John Kennedy, exactly.
black and white television. Nixon did not understand television. He'd been in the hospital. He'd lost some weight. His suit didn't fit well. He was one of those guys who had a 5 o'clock shadow at 10 in the morning. He didn't want to put on any makeup, and he sweated.
Oh, okay.
So he's kind of looking around at the camera, had no clue. Kennedy, back from vacation, looked great, understood, look at the camera. The famous study, people who heard on the radio, Nixon's my man. People who saw it on TV, I would never vote for that crook.
Interesting.
In fact, now if you go to a debate, bring a sweater. It's going to be 65 degrees so people don't sweat.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, gosh.
If you go back to the first debate that President Obama had with Romney, President Obama, the consummate speaker, lost. He seemed aloof, disengaged. He was ticked off to be in the same room with Romney, and his body language told that story.
Interesting. Well, and it's through your body language, really, again, that you exude the confidence.
Yes.
You know, but at the same time, there is a sweet part to when there's somebody really that shows their vulnerability, right?
Oh yes, yeah. You want to make an emotional connection with your audience.
Right.
Nancy Duarte. She's the presentation guru who did the slides for Al Gore in Inconvenient Truth. Says personal stories are the emotional glue that connect your audience to your message. And we've had some amazing stories.
Oh yeah.
In TED Talk. Oh my gosh.
Oh my
tear
gosh.
jerkers. But what happens is people hear these stories and they go into the hard drive of their brain and they pull out a file that matches it. Or that is similar to it. And that's how you make that connection.
Who have you facilitated over the years with
Well,
TEDx?
Jade was one of the latest ones. I remember Jade
Oh
Harrell.
my gosh. Do we love her?
Oh my gosh. And talk about expressive. I mean, she has a smile that just lights up the whole audience. And I had an architect and several other people, but Jade really stands out because she realizes how important it is.
Yeah.
And she's a radio person.
Right.
Like this. But she knows how important it is, and she owned that stage, didn't she?
She was one, that was one of my favorite talks. And it was so funny because I remember when she auditioned and it was, there were some people that weren't too sure about what, they were like, they didn't quite get what she was doing, but they just loved her. And it was because of her, how she is. I mean, she glows.
Yes.
Right? When I first
and she has a brand like you do.
Her and I with the head things. I know
yes.
We've talked about like we should go into business, make our own head things. You know, the Jade and Mich head things.
No, but it's interesting to talk about it because it can't overwhelm your presence because
right.
Think Steve Jobs like in most cases. Because what you don't want them to do is remember that headband and not know your speech.
Right.
So really, this is perfect for that. Where Jade, and we talked about it, they had to be a little more subdued because that is her brand, but you didn't want people to say, wow, she had a beautiful headdress on her. Man, that dress got 1,000 colors. Yeah.
Gotcha.
In fact, I even take off my name tag when I speak because that's clutter. And in terms of presentations, clean and simple rules. Zen-like. Your language, the way you look, your slides, you don't want any clutter.
Interesting.
Yeah.
And so when we work with our speakers, though, that's all part of it.
Yes.
We're talking to them about what are you going to wear? What are you going to look like? Hey, did you know you did this a lot? Yes. The things that people don't realize they do when they're talking, or if they do weird things with their hands or something, we need to help them be aware of it.
Well, Toastmasters, they always consider the evaluation to be the most important part of the meeting. Because then you want to sandwich it. Here's something I really like, Mich. Here's an opportunity for improvement. And here's something else I like. And one of the things we talk about in terms of practicing, because a lot of this work has to be on their own.
Right.
Video yourself.
Yes.
The first time you go back to it, though, turn the sound off. Just watch. Do you have any twitches? Are you scratching yourself?
Right.
Second time, turn it around, just listen. Do you have any ahs or ers? How is your enunciation and pronunciation? How is your cadence? Are you pausing? Third time, watch it because you'll see and hear what the audience sees and hears. Fourth time, have somebody with you because we all have blind spots. Sometimes we miss something we did really well or not so well. You want to have somebody with you.
Well, and it's good to get feedback from people.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, that's like a huge thing. We're doing it this week.
Yes.
Yeah, we're going to watch the speakers this week and give them feedback. That's happening
tonight. Yes.
Yeah, it's happening. So, well, thank you, Fred. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back.
Cool.
What do you want me to make sure to talk about with you?
Maybe with individuals. So we say it applies to TED Talk. Well, your everyday working stiff.
Right. People that
what does
just
that mean?
They're in a leadership role and they have to be able to present.
Or if they want to be in one. I tell some stories. Somebody said, I'm sick. I'll tell you that story.
All right.
Sick and tired of.
Yeah.
Does this make sense to you?
Yeah.
All
Let's do it. Let's go there.
Before we do that, can I make a quick request?
Yes.
You may.
I had a brief dropout for a moment. So, and it was kind of when you were describing the Toastmasters, like kind of right when you said, when you were talking about that you were in Toastmasters, and then the Gateway...
Motivational team.
Gateway Motivational, and then you said you wrote your first book in whatever.
2011.
Yeah.
So if you could just kind of like give
Repeat
me that
it
little...
word for word again.
No, you don't need to repeat it word
Well,
for
that's
word.
one of the things we talk about. Never try and memorize a speech. It'll
Right.
drive you nuts.
Right.
So yeah. If you
Well,
could
I was talking about... No. Okay.
Yeah. Just kind of describe what you roughly what you said.
Well, I was in Toastmasters for 20 or more years. I even had a group we called the Gateway Motivational Team. And the idea was to go around and give motivational speeches. Now, nothing ever came of that, but I kept the title of my talk at that time, which was No Sweat Public Speaking, and published a book by that title in 2011. And I've been speaking, coaching, and doing that ever since.
Perfect.
Perfect.
I want every time that I need to do this, it should be with a public speaker.
Here you go. High five.
Sometimes
high five.
that's
High
like a
five,
10-minute
Miller.
thing.
Oh, but I do have a problem with enunciation and the other things too. But that practicing tip, and actually I got it from a guy who won a big Toastmaster contest. It's a great tip, isn't it?
It is a great tip.
A lot of the work has to be on your own.
Well, yeah. And you have to practice and practice and practice.
Yeah.
I think when people are freaked out about getting up on that stage, a lot of times I'm thinking, you haven't practiced enough. I mean, not that you're not going to, like, be a little, nervous. That's okay. But, because you're going to be getting up in front of how many people kind of thing. But to be freaking out, it means you didn't really prepare.
Yeah, and well, we could talk about that too. Why people have that fear of public speaking. Some nuggets of lesson. Very common. That story about John Roberts. I don't know if you heard on NPR or not, but terrible fear of public speaking. He's the Supreme Court justice, but he lived with Pepto Bismol. He got nervous all the time.
Oh gosh!
Yeah.
Wow! All right, we're ready when you are.
Right.
Okay, give me just a sec.
And if you can make me sound a little better.
We could do different voices.
If you can
we could really screw
Can
it.
you make me sound like a...
Back with Mishmash. Sam does magical things.
I was going to say, this is far more sophisticated than the stuff I do on Audacity. And I don't do that well on it. I'm just figuring who listens anyway.
This is like just a little tiny tick up.
Oh
from
my
there.
gosh, that's incredible.
I know. Half the time I don't know what he's doing.
It's all in the editing, because I
Yeah.
have learned if I screw up, just stop, keep recording, and you can edit that out.
Right.
I used to go back and, you lose your voice after a while, because you're always going to mess up something, or usually.
No, we've gotten pretty. I don't know. Sam just always does a good job.
Well, it makes it look easy, but that's really tough to do.
Sorry, I'm trying to make this make sense before it goes out.
You're
No
fine.
problem.
So I won't be there tonight, but I'm going to be there Wednesday night. Are you there
Right.
both nights?
No, just a minute.
Yeah, I'm doing.
And hopefully
Elaine was thinking.
Macau will show up.
Well, yeah, I hope so. The Elaine, originally she hardly had anybody showing up Wednesday night, and I'm like, put me down for Wednesday. I'll be. Well, now that she's got a group, but I'm like, well, if you want me, I'll still come Wednesday.
And that hand thing of hers is horrible.
Oh my God.
More operation. I don't think it's going to get any better.
She is now. She said it's doing better. She's doing her
But she's not gonna
physical
be like
therapy, and
Yeah.
But you feel bad because you forget that, like yesterday we were on. We had this conference call, but there was some confusion because there were two different conference call numbers in the calendar invite, because Google just plops its own in there sometimes. So two people were on the Google one and two people were on the other one, and so Elaine and I were on the other one. I was like, you know what? Hold on, let me dial this other number. And I'm like, okay, they're in there. So and I felt terrible because I'm like, well, Elaine, I'll just see you over there. And then I got the phone thinking, oh my gosh, I am making Elaine redial all of this.
She is so good at what she does.
Oh, she's
the
amazing.
previous one, Friends or whatever. You know what I mean? You know what I mean, don't you? Previous gal had her job.
Can you just briefly say for me, in 2011, Or like in 2011?
In 2011, I published my first book, No Sweat Public Speaking.
No, Elaine is. So Elaine, when she first started to volunteer for us and then wanted to do this whole speaking thing, I was thrilled because you can't even tell some people they've got it going on, right?
She's a leader.
She's got it going
Oh,
on,
yeah.
right? And so when she took that over, I mean, Steve and I were both like, oh my gosh, this is so good. You know, I mean, they're just, really the core people we have on our team. You know, I mean, the people that have been showing up year after year.
Oh, yeah.
We've got a good group.
It's a lot of work. I mean, she put a lot of work into it. And, yeah, she's very sharp. She's doing
about
better
to
than
do
the
a
previous
lot
person, is what I meant to say.
more work because now that we're going to be interviewing our next batch of people that we are interested in talking to. Since she is retired, right? She usually will be the person that can for sure show up to all of these things. So,
All right.
are we ready?
We are ready.
Awesome sauce. We're ready.
All right, here we go.
Okay, we're back with Fred Miller. So we've been talking about people that want to be speakers or they're doing some presentation, but there's another side to this. And these are people that are in leadership positions that need to sound good when they get in front of their team.
Or even not leadership positions.
Okay.
You know, presentations are given all the time.
Gotcha.
Internally and externally. Formal and informal. People give them for themselves or they give them representing a company. And most of them are underwhelming. Underwhelming. You know, it's most people's greatest fear. A lot of the individual coaching I do, someone will call and say, I'm sick and tired of people who don't contribute as much to the company as I do. They're not working as hard, but they're getting recognition, bonuses. Sometimes they're getting promotions because they're speaking.
Right.
And they're not very good, but they're doing it, and I'm not. I remember a guy sitting on my couch, Mitch, and he said, I have lost promotional opportunities because I didn't raise my hand and speak.
I bet that's very true.
Oh, yeah. And
Because they were afraid to say anything.
Yeah, that fear of public speaking holds so many people back. And people are always asking, well, why do we have the fear of public speaking? The easy answer is, why not? I mean, think about it. Most of our conversations are one-on-one. Most of those are on the phone.
Right.
You don't see the person.
Right.
And more, especially young people, they're texting and email.
Right.
You don't see or hear them. So it just stands to reason you get in front of 20, 40, 60 sets of eyeballs like, whoa, I'm out of my comfort zone.
And I can see where people, because especially think about a situation where there's a group of people around the table and the person is afraid to speak up. Because there's always that one that speaks up on everything and is like so authoritative and knows everything. You're like afraid to go, like, oh, they're going to start. But what I have found, and then, you know, how you get in your head and you're like, oh, this might be a stupid suggestion or whatever. But I have found if I just say it, there are usually people that are thinking the same thing I am thinking. They're like,
Oh, yeah.
you know what, you're right. I mean, 9 times out of 10, that everybody else is going, I was thinking that same thing.
It's
I'm
like
glad
asking
you said
questions.
something.
It's
right?
like asking questions. A lot of people are afraid to ask a question because they figure, I must have missed it in the presentation. I'm the only one who didn't hear what it was. People are going to be staring at me.
Right.
Most people are thinking, I'm so glad Mich asked that question.
Right.
I had no idea.
I was in a big meeting one time, and this was, oh my gosh, back when the Google, what was it was like Facebook that Google had put out there.
MySpace?
No. Oh gosh, I can't remember the name of it. And it was just one of those things like, are they gonna do something? And Google kept telling you how important this was, and then you would like get it all set up and start working it, and nothing was happening, and I couldn't figure out what was going on with it. I don't know why it's not coming to me. But I'm in this big, huge meeting, and this Google guy's giving this whole presentation, and no one's asking at the end. He's like, anybody got any questions? And no one's asking, are you going to do something with this? And finally, I just asked. I was like, can you tell me what's going on with this? And I mean, I felt like it was the question on top of, everybody's like, yeah, what is going on? Like, oh, thank goodness somebody asked, you know.
Well, you're right. And first of all, he asked that question about questions wrong. He said, does anyone have any questions? That's a yes or no answer. Better to say, what questions do you have for me?
Oh, now that's a good
and raise
tip.
your hand. Now, speaking of questions, it's always a problem. It's a source of anxiety for the speaker. What if somebody asks a question about my third to last slide? What if I don't know the answer?
Right.
What if people start raising their hands? Well, up front, when when you give your opening, tell them how you're going to handle questions. So I'm going to talk about this, this, and this. I have time set aside after each of those sections for a few questions just on those sections. I have time set aside at the end for questions. Then I'll conclude my presentation. And that's really important. The closing comes after the questions.
Really?
Well, here's why. There's something called the law of primacy and recency.
Okay.
The audience best remembers the first and last things you say and do. That's why you want a strong opening and a stronger closing. The last thing I say and do...
That is such a good tip.
Well, the last thing I say and do is the first thing you're going to remember. So if traditionally, and it's usually done this way, I finish the speech, you come up and say, oh, it's dynamite, Fred, can you stick around for questions? I say, oh, sure, I'm taking a few questions. Maybe there's time for one more. And Steve raises his hand. And Steve says, you know, Fred, that thing you said about practicing your mind's eye, what a crock. That never works. Wasted my 2 hours. Well, time's up. Everybody gets up.
And then it ends on this down note.
That's right.
Or sometimes it just sort of ends weird. Like
That's
the question. That is I love that idea.
Oh, it's huge. And when you tell them how you're going to handle questions, you don't have to worry about being interrupted. So if you raise your hand, I say, do me a favor, Mich, write that down. And if I don't cover it when we come to the Q&A, be sure to ask me.
That's awesome. You're good at what you do.
I study it all the time. I've made all the mistakes.
You have
but that is a
written
big one.
so much about it too. You are like Mr. Writer. I mean, how many blogs do you put out?
Now it's every 2 weeks, but I've done hundreds of them. Been doing it for a long time.
You've got great information out there.
Well, thank you.
I love it.
I work
All
hard
right.
at it, though.
Well, you do.
And I tell people that it's very important. Work really hard at it. Doesn't come easy.
No.
Don't expect that you work hard at what you do.
You're just not going to pop up on stage and be
No.
brilliant off the get-go.
You know, I still do remember when you came on. You were heading up the show. It was after. What was the stripper's name?
Lola.
And you said, I was going to wear the same outfit. I'm so glad that she
I
came
gotta
on
tell you,
first."
she made my stage presence that day really easy because there were so many interesting things you could do with that.
Oh, yeah.
Right? It was really fun.
And that was
Yeah.
the time that Amy Hunter spoke.
Right.
So I go home, I'm telling my wife about Amy, which was one of the best speeches ever.
Absolutely.
I tell her about Lola. So my wife's a teacher, and Amy spoke at Parkway, where my wife worked at the time.
Okay.
My wife goes up to Amy, she says, oh my gosh, my husband cannot quit talking about you and the stripper.
Amy's like,
It was so funny.
awesome.
And I saw Amy at another event after that, and I said, you're going to remember me when I tell you this story. And she did.
Oh my gosh.
But, yeah, that was great.
They
That
were
was
both
great.
amazing.
But you were great then. That was so cool.
Oh, that was so
I had the
fun.
same outfit too. I'm glad I left it in the dressing room. My gosh, I would have been embarrassed.
That was really, I mean, well, we have so many fun events.
I was.
So we're going to take another quick break. We'll be right back with Fred.
Okay, I've tried to memorize everything I said.
Now,
Sam,
we want to start
Okay.
all over the whole section.
since it's not a problem.
Can
Really, I
you
talk to
talk
people
about-
who try to memorize speeches. I say, really?
There was one speaker that had to memorize his because
Oh, I know. The guy
the-
was dynamite.
the FDA thing. There was, or was it?
No,
there was,
this guy had, he was dyslexic. He was Dr. Joe. Big, tall guy. One of the best presentations ever.
The guy I'm thinking of was Lou Alarizo.
Oh, that's
I
a
think is
different-
how
I
to
don't know
say.
that one.
But what he was talking about, his lawyers were like had to read the whole
Oh.
thing, and then they were like, "This you have to memorize this word for word," and he did, and he did really good because it didn't seem
Really?
memorized.
So-
You know how like some people it seems memorized, right? I mean,
Does this really seem like I've memorized it?
right.
Right.
Hi,
Well, we talk
welcome
about
to Mishmash
Well, we can talk about,
podcast.
yeah,
you know,
there
yeah,
you go.
right.
Pictures versus bullet points. We can talk about that if you want. whatever you want.
Well, it's question time.
Oh, okay.
Oh yes, we shall see where this takes us. It might take us to bullet points.
Good thing we can edit this.
You gonna start cussing at me?
Is my makeup okay, Sam?
Beep beep
It's
beep beep. Okay,
Good.
All right, you ready?
I'm ready. All right, we are back with Fred, and it is question time. Are you ready?
I
You
was
were
born
born
ready.
ready.
Born ready.
Okay. Do you recall, or like the first great public speaker, like the first person you saw speaking, you went, "Oh my gosh, I want to do that."
Probably Zig Ziglar.
Really?
Zig Ziglar was a salesman. He always ended his speeches, "I will see you at the top." phenomenal speaker,
Okay.
and from Atlanta, kind of talked like a Baptist preacher, but he was phenomenal. Zig Ziglar, he was the best
And
of
he
the
was
best.
prolific, right? Didn't he
Oh my
have like a
gosh.
million talks
Oh,
and
yeah.
books and what have you?
Yeah. Great.
He
great
was the
speaker.
guy. He was the guy that said,
Yes.
I'm doing this. I love it. All right. So since you have been a part of TEDx, is there any topic you wish we really, really would cover on that stage?
Public speaking. Tell people I give a TED talk. Let me think if I can think of anybody. Oh, because it is most people's greatest fear. But you know, it can help people even if they're not a leader. Help them
That's
become
true.
leaders. And if you think about it, they need to start teaching this stuff early. There are kids in kindergarten who won't do show and tell. But it's
True.
such a tremendous skill, which you have, but it does phenomenal things for
I'm
you.
just a
I'll tell you a quick
That's
story.
where mine comes from. It's just, I don't know. I've never had an issue with getting up in front of
Well, you're
people and
fortunate.
talking. But I do get that some people are like, but go ahead, tell me your story.
Well, I spoke to a real estate investors association, and the president of that association was a great speaker. And I went up afterwards and I complimented him, and I said, "What's your day job?" And he said, "Well, I'm an engineer at Boeing." And we both kind of chuckled, like, "Left brain, really?"
right.
And he said, "I know what you're thinking. You know, most left brain people are engineers or architects. I'm very fortunate. I have the ability to communicate. That's why I'm the leader." Honestly, every one of the guys in my team knows the job better and does a better job of it, but I'm the leader because I can communicate. That
Yeah.
skill is so huge.
And you think about, so we're doing this right now. We're in New City, right, with teaching the youth how to
Yeah.
speak, and it's something we would like to eventually roll out to other schools. But having that ability for these children to learn how to do public speaking young, it's going to carry them through life.
It's a game changer.
It's going to help them in no matter what they end up doing, even if they are a left brain engineer person. Thank you for that. All right, this is totally off. This is not anything to do with speaking.
Okay.
I want you to talk about the most wow factor of your daughter's wedding. I'm still obsessed with your daughter's
Oh,
wedding. I'm totally obsessed with your daughter's wedding.
I wish I
just
could
think
say-
it sounded amazing.
yeah. My daughter married this wonderful guy. His parents were from India. She wore a sari. And I'll back up a little bit. My history, I was raised Jewish, married a Southern Baptist in a Unitarian church, and raised the kids to be Presbyterians. It just seemed like the Christian thing to do.
You just want to cover all your bases.
Yeah, I want to cover all the bases. So when she was going to marry this fellow whose parents were from India, it's like, great. Anyway, two things, and thanks for asking. He is a singer. He's a pediatric neurologist, but he also is the karaoke DJ at Blueberry Hill.
What? I didn't know that.
And when he sang Lionel Richie's song, I thought he was lip syncing. He was that good. Now, my daughter and I danced, but I blew it when we came to the Slumdog Millionaire song. She said muscle memory will take care of you. It didn't. But it was pretty cool.
You guys had like a Bollywood choreograph
Oh yeah.
kind
First
of
we were
thing?
doing the regular
Cool,
dance,
cool.
and then we faked the music went out. We go, what the? And then we had a few dances come on. We did a little Michael Jackson and something else, and the twist.
Oh,
But then I said,
is there a video of this?
I said, yeah. Do you have something special? We've got a lot of special guests from out of town, and they put on Slumdog Millionaire, and all these people were from India or Indians, and they went crazy. And I got the first step right, maybe half the first. It didn't matter though, but it was fun. Yeah, I'll send you the video. It was
Oh my
so
gosh,
cool.
how fun. Well, I just
Yeah.
remember you talking about, I was so intrigued when you were talking about everything that was going. I'm like, this sounds so cool. But I did not know that he's like, oh,
Extremely
let me,
talented.
I'm Mr. Smart Guy doing this over here. Oh, and
Yeah,
by the
Nita.
way, I can sing and all of this.
Yeah, Nita.
Well, Nita, I know.
Nita, I meant, yes.
I'm trying to get Nita on here because I want to learn more about the Indian community, and
Yes.
she's another one that's
Oh, yeah.
talented all over the place.
Yeah, awesome. But yeah, it was great. Thank you for asking.
Very fun. So tell everyone where they can find you.
Oh, good. Thank you for asking. Find me at No Sweat Public Speaking. I blog regularly. I've got lots of stuff you can download for free, lots of templates and things, and make your next presentation. No sweat.
No sweat. Awesome sauce. Well, thank you, Fred Miller, for being on today. I really appreciate
My
it.
privilege.
All right, everyone out there, you've been listening to Mishmash. Please go to iTunes and subscribe and have awesome days. Bye.
You did a marvelous job.
Thank you. Why, thank you.
I mean, seriously, Don Marsh lost his job, or he walked off at KWMU.
Oh, I didn't
Yeah.
know that.
I wonder what the controversy is. Because I got to tell you, he was awesome. I've been interviewed by him twice, and he was tough. I went in with a bunch. Here, these are the questions you can ask me. Just didn't even look at it, and he knew his stuff. And luckily, I went in. I had a mind map. It's a kind of little diagram of things I wanted to get in, so I didn't always give him eye contact. But he was superb. And I think what happened, you have to read the stories. Karen Foss was on the other day, and he said, "Oh, you look great." And somebody said that was sexual harassment or something, and he got up and walked out, I think.
Really?
Is that what you heard?
Something like that.
Yeah.
It seems like there's some amount of public disagreement between the station and Don, what they're saying happened, but I think that's kind of the crux of it. Maybe.
He'd been there a long time. He was awesome. I mean, really, really good.
Well, I just love talking to people. I love learning about people. I am.
Very natural at it.
Well, that's why I'm so perfect at TEDx, though, right? I'm the forever curious person, right? So that's, TEDx totally fulfills that need. If you are a curious person, go watch TED Talks.
Yeah.
You'll learn. You'll learn a lot about a lot.
So you've got TED Talk in you, don't you?
Maybe.
Sure you do.
Probably. I don't know.
Everyone's got stories. We didn't talk about this, but everyone has a story.
Everyone.
And it's all about stories. So one of the exercises we do sometimes in class, they take out your phone, go to photos, start scrolling, and stop when you have a story. I remember one lady, she goes, "It's my dog. It's the only friend I had when I was going through rehab."
Oh.
Another lady, and my grandmother, 92. Let me tell you how somebody lives to me. Oh yeah, everyone's got stories.
Oh, I
but
got a
sometimes
story.
you got
That's for sure.
Well, I know you do.
You
But
know I got a
sometimes
story.
you've got to drag it out of them. That's why a good coach listens and asks questions so you hear yourself. That's why you're a good interviewer. You could do that too. You got to be a good listener, but you pull that out.
Yeah.
And one of the things we talk about is that we're too close to ourselves, and we give a lot of negative talk. The story I didn't tell, we talked about sometime. A friend sent me a email once, a question. So I was at my computer, and I type out, and I hit it back. Almost immediately, I got a one-word response. Wow. And I'm thinking, what's wow? So I send back, what's wow? And 15 minutes later, I got his answer, and it's relevant to this conversation of stories. He said, sometimes you're so close to your own knowledge base that's so wide and so deep, you don't know what you know. You found this when you're interviewing people. So your everyday mission, that could be somebody's payday. Your everyday could be somebody's aha moment.
Right.
Each and every one of us has knowledge and stories people would love to hear and they would benefit from it.
Right.
But you got to pull it out. That's why a great facilitator, that's a real skill.
Oh, yeah.
To shut people up and then to draw in people
To
who...
get them to, do their story, or when they start veering off into something, you're like, wait, we don't need that. Go back.
Yep.
Cut that. We don't need all of that. I mean, there's a whole thing to it.
But it is funny. You look at somebody and say, you have a story, don't you? Everyone. You can see it in their
Everybody.
eyes.
They don't have stories.
Maybe he knows.
Yeah, stories.
Yeah.
And that's what people remember.
Yes.
They remember the stories,
Yeah.
right? That's what people remember.
People want to hear those stories.
Exactly.
Because you can picture them. Yeah. And you use the pictures and everything else. Well, you did a marvelous job. I mean,
Well, so
you
did
ever
you.
thought about going on radio? No, seriously. Jade's on KWMU, I think.
Is
Yeah.
she?
Is she still there?
So, and I
As of-
do, and
I
I
heard her a
think
week ago.
about.
Yeah, she's awesome. But Don Marsh, that's going to be tough to replace him.
Yeah.
I mean, several people before him died, actually.
Oh gosh.
Yeah. I mean, not on the air, but...
Oh, that's good.
Yeah,
Well, that'd be
one
a bad show to go
was
to if that was the
Greg.
case.
What was it? He was a writer for Post-Dispatch, heavy-set guy, black gentleman. And then there was another guy who was on Channel 2 at one time. But Don Marsh, I thought he was better on radio than TV. But he might have just said, I'm 80, I don't need this garbage. Or he's 80
Someday
something.
something might come of this. Honestly, right now, I feel like I have my business so I can do my
But
hobbies.
this is huge. This gives you public. I mean, you
But I have
promote this
fun
all
with it.
over, right?
And I get to talk to interesting people and learn
Well, the
about
next
people
one
in
will be-
St. Louis that will.
The next guest will be.
I wish
And
you'd have
the
been more
hate mail
interesting.
and the death threats that you get from this interview,
Should I just
want you to ignore
want me
them.
to ignore those?
Ignore them. They're all meant for me.
How dare you have Fred
what
Miller
the
on your?
hell are you thinking?
I
you have your
usually
blank
love
up
your
blank?
podcast.
Yeah. Where's the where's the dislike button? This is horrible.
Oh,
Oh.
can you imagine?
Well, see, I did take a look. You've interviewed a ton of people, and I knew that you may be thinking about going off the air now. Is why you waited for me for the last, because figuring if people dump you now, then
No.
it's not like those other people lost their chance with you. Isn't that interesting about primacy and recency, though? Taking those questions
Yeah.
before you place it?
I'm going to remember that. That is a very good thought. For just when people ask me to do a presentation about social media, I'm going to take questions before
Write your own
now.
introduction, too.
Yeah,
You
I
write
do.
them?
Yeah,
That's
usually I
huge.
give people,
You want to do that.
yeah.
Sam, do you do any speaking?
Not really beyond. Sometimes I'll get asked to go to like career days,
Yeah.
or schools will bring classes of students here. So usually that just consists of me winging it for a couple hours and seeing what the
Asking
kids are
questions of
into.
the kids.
Yeah, kids are hard because they most of the time don't want to talk, especially like in certain age ranges, like when junior high kids.
Yeah.
They're very inward, and you have to just like, I hope this is interesting at all because I'm getting no feedback from
Right.
You know,
They're
you-
like,
you
look,
made a
I'm
good
just
point.
happy I get a day off of school.
Yeah.
I'd rather speak to a fairly large audience because you can get that feedback.
Yeah.
Toughest audience I ever had was, I do these little videos, I'm looking at a lens. It's like, hey, do you like me or not? I'm not getting
I
feedback.
wonder if
Right.
right.
And then I learned to turn around the viewfinder. That was pretty scary too. Look at yourself. But not having, I'm the only one speaking, but I got to get feedback from the audience because if somebody looks at me and goes, well, shame on me. I need to repeat that in a different manner.
Yeah.
So is there a lot of hate mail coming in?
Everybody is like
I see
saying,
death
please
threat
go
with
away.
daggers. I'm quitting
There's
Facebook
sad
now.
faces.
Mich used to be my favorite interviewer. Now she is. I didn't know it never could go that low. Why did she bring that old dork on?
Old dork.
It's just a wig. It's just hair.
We have fun. Well, I'll see you. Okay, I will see you Wednesday night. You're just
No,
going tonight.
Just tonight.
I will not see you Wednesday night.
I'm going out of town next week. Going to Japan.
Are you really? Okay, can you come back to report something for me?
Sure.
I am obsessed. I want to go to Japan for one reason, and that is I want to see all the vending machines.
Oh, I've been watching lots of videos. One of the reasons we're going, Anthony Bourdain. I was a big Anthony Bourdain
Oh,
fan.
yeah.
You know who he was?
Yeah.
I mean, Sam, you know who Anthony Bourdain was?
Yeah.
I mean, who wouldn't want to be Anthony Bourdain?
Right.
Big, tall, good-looking guy. Could eat, could eat this table full of food and not put on an ounce.
Yeah.
I guess there were something going on there.
Right.
But somebody once asked him, "So, what's your favorite city in the world?" He goes, "Tokyo." I figure that's a pretty good recommendation.
Right.
Yeah,
Oh, that sounds like fun.
yeah, that'll be fun.
Oh my gosh.
That'll be
Take
fun.
video
Lots
and
of
pictures
pictures,
of
video.
weird vending machines.
So I got to write myself a note. I'm going to send you
Do you like how I'm
the
expecting
video
this?
for.
Well, I had a podcast guest on, Avis Meyer, professor over at St. Louis University. He's traveled the world.
Ooh.
And he was talking about how he was going to go to Egypt. And I was like, oh my gosh, if you go to Egypt, go to the Pizza Hut that you can look out and you can see the pyramids. I'm like, that's got to be the weirdest experience
You've
on
been
earth.
there.
No, I haven't.
Oh.
I just knew about it. And so he came back and he had taken a picture for me of him inside the Pizza Hut looking at the pyramids and then a picture of what it looked like outside. He's like, Mish, it's worse than you thought. It's a Pizza Hut and a KFC hooked together. He took
That's
a
so
picture of
funny.
them. So I have both. I have them proudly displayed at my house because and people will, what is with these pictures? I'm like, oh my gosh, this is hilarious, right?
That is fun.
So yeah. Okay, awesome
Should I go
sauce. Yeah, you can finish.
on
Bye,
live?
everybody.